In the summer of 1931, a small, creaking submarine crept toward the edge of the known world. Its mission: to disappear beneath the vast, frozen expanse of the Arctic Ocean, an alien, untouched frontier that had confounded explorers for centuries. Aboard the vessel was a crew of intrepid men led by one of the last great polar adventurers of the age, Sir Hubert Wilkins. Their aim was as daring as it was unprecedented, not just to reach the North Pole, but to do so by traveling thousands of kilometers under the Arctic ice in a machine never before used for such a purpose. This wasn't a voyage of conquest. It was a voyage into mystery, a new path to the pole. For centuries, explorers had sought the fabled North Pole, often meeting tragic ends. Wooden ships became entombed in pack ice. Sled teams vanished into blizzards. It wasn't until 1926 that the pole was conclusively reached by airship, not on foot. That left Wilkins, a man already renowned for his polar exploits, with a radical idea. What if the Arctic could be reached not over the ice, but beneath it? Wilkins envisioned a submarine transformed into a scientific laboratory. It would glide below the frozen crust, measuring ice thickness, sampling ocean currents, and unveiling geological secrets hidden from the surface. The journey would begin in Europe, arc beneath the Arctic Ocean, and emerge weeks later in Alaska, over 3,000 kilometers away. To fund such a bold endeavor, Wilkins knew he had to capture the public's imagination. So he turned his scientific quest into a media spectacle, partnering with William Randolph Hearst, the newspaper tycoon known for his flair for drama. Hearst promised exclusive coverage and a $150,000 reward if Wilkins could make his daring polar dive just as the German airship Graf Zeppelin flew overhead. It was the ultimate stunt, the North Pole conquered from above and below in one glorious moment. The Nautilus, a submarine reborn. The vessel Wilkins chose was a retired World War-era submarine, rechristened Nautilus. The sub had seen better days, but naval engineer Simon Lake believed he could make it polar-worthy. He bolted sledge runners to the hull, reinforced the bow with concrete armor, and added a hydraulic ram for breaking through ice. A special ice drill was designed to bore through 20 feet of frozen, see if the crew needed to escape to the surface. Yet despite these bold innovations, Wilkins had serious doubts. He worried the modifications were either unnecessary or outright dangerous. Some, like the shock absorber on the bow, could cause the sub to become wedged in ice, dooming the expedition. Still, Wilkins had little say. Lake held the lease on the submarine and made all final decisions. As mechanical failures mounted during pre-launch trials, Wilkins grew anxious. But time was running out. The Graf Zeppelin's flight to the pole was scheduled. If Wilkins didn't leave soon, the entire spectacle and the prize money would be lost. The Atlantic Gauntlet. In June 1931, the Nautilus finally set sail. Almost immediately, the North Atlantic punished the underpowered sub. Storms tossed the crew like rag dolls. The engine groaned. There was only one toilet on board, openly placed between two roaring diesel engines, and no space to lie down. Vomit, oil, and raw sewage sloshed around the feet of seasick men. Within days, one of the engines cracked. The radio fell silent. For several days, the Nautilus was missing. Then, on June 15th, the U.S. battleship Wyoming found her adrift, powerless, 1,000 kilometers northeast of the Azores. The humiliation was complete. She had to be towed the rest of the way. By the time they reached London, four crew members had quit. The press mocked the expedition. And worst of all, the airship rendezvous was now impossible. Any other man would have surrendered. But Wilkins pressed on, into the ice. In late July, months behind schedule, the Nautilus steamed north again. On August 19th, she entered the first ice fields. Spirits lifted. Scientific equipment was deployed. Wilkins radioed back discoveries about warm water layers deep below the surface, possibly the first such measurements ever made. By August 27th, they reached 82 degrees north, further than any submarine had ever traveled under its own power. On the outside, Wilkins remained confident. But below deck, morale was crumbling. The Nautilus had no insulation. Crewmen shivered inside a frozen steel tomb, breathing air poisoned with lead from soldered pipes and battling food poisoning. Then came disaster. The diving rudder, the mechanism that allowed the submarine to submerge, was missing. Whether it had broken off or been sabotaged remains a mystery. Without it, the sub couldn't dive. The dream of going under the ice was slipping away. Desperation and Madness. Hearst's newspapers publicly urged Wilkins to abandon the mission. But privately, Hearst's team reminded him of the financial deal they had struck. With his reputation and fortune at stake, Wilkins made a fateful choice. On August 31st, he ordered the ballast tanks flooded and the trim set to dive. The Nautilus rammed itself under the ice. The sledge runners shrieked as metal scraped ice. The hull groaned in protest. The submarine wasn't just damaged, it was dying. Still, Wilkins ordered tests of the ice drills. But they jammed again and again. After hours of futile drilling, he finally admitted defeat. On September 6th, Wilkins radioed the words no one expected. "Our Arctic trip is over. Legacy and ice." The Nautilus had failed to reach the North Pole. Yet in some ways, Wilkins had succeeded. He had proven a submarine could survive and gather scientific data under Arctic ice. But the cost was enormous. His reputation tarnished. His finances ruined. His final expedition nearly forgotten. The Nautilus was too damaged to repair. It was scuttled off the coast of Norway. Wilkins died in obscurity at age 70. But in a final act of honor, the U.S. Navy scattered his ashes at the North Pole. Decades later, another Nautilus, this one nuclear-powered, would finally achieve what Wilkins dreamed of. In 1958, it sailed silently beneath the Arctic ice and emerged triumphantly at the pole. Sir Hubert Wilkins never got there, but he paved the way. And perhaps that's the true story of all great explorers. They don't always arrive, but they show us how to begin.